Hi guys, my name is Ryan Milton. I am one of the Firefly sponsored drivers competing in the Formula G 2022 season. I also do the drift taxis at Santa Pod Raceway, so you'll catch me at lots of events taking people out. We're aiming to get on the podium this year, so I'm at Firefly Speedshop today to get some weight taken out of the car. We're power limit, we're kind of set, so it's time to take some weight out and put some more grip in. So the original plan was just to have a little refresh, get rid of the black bumper, because I keep crashing it, and tidy up the arches, but Christian, being the madman he is, decided let's go crazy, tube the front end, take some more weight out, do the rear end, get all new paint inside and out. It's going to look pretty.
That's ISO. Rack it up, I got a bit of the bank to make me a safe house. Shake it up, she got her hands on her knees and she bringing the cake out. Smoke it up, I got some gas, some packs, I'm up in the greenhouse. Ball it up, I'm with the gang, we taking shots off the rebound. Fucking my posters, say now, I've been humble too long, yeah. Tell them all to stay calm, yeah. Tell them all to move on, yeah. Fucking my posters, say now, they be lost in the sauce, yeah. Took a loss, that's your loss, yeah. Had to get my point across, yeah. Heard them lanes was talking now and we don't pay that no mind. Didn't need to watch and know that I'll be here in no time.
So Nathan's done some measurements, and as you can see here, chassis legs be gone.
Well, deliberating what sort of style we're going to do.
Sounds good. And this is the first time you're kind of in depth with fab work. You're just learning the process, right?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Well, I get your wife pregnant, but I ain't trying to be dependent. I need money. No.
So, am I nervous? Yes, because about 3 hours ago this was a working, running, drifting car, and now it's
About to get cut up for the scrapyard.
yeah. But I've got full faith in Christian, so it'll be fine.
There we go.
All of the blades.
Yep. Oh shit, sorry mate, can't put it back together, I don't know what to do.
Are you on top there now? You ain't got nothing on us. I'm steady calling your bluff. Pass me the split, need me a puff. You don't want smoke, tell them that's tough. Yeah, yeah. Heard them ones that's talking now and we don't pay that no mind. Didn't need to watch and know that I'll be here in no time. Put a candle on it, had to tell them they can blow mine. Lights, camera, action, it shows I ain't. Rack it up, I got a bit of the bank to make me a safe house. Shake it up, she got her hands on her knees and she bringing the cake out. Smoke it up, I got some gas, some packs, I'm up in the greenhouse. Ball it up, I'm with the gang, we taking shots off the rebound. Fucking my posters, say now, I've been humble too long, yeah. Tell them all to stay calm, yeah. Tell them all to move on, yeah. Fucking my posters, say now, they be lost in the sauce, yeah. Took a loss, that's your loss, yeah. Had to get my point across, yeah.
You've been carrying that around all this time? You didn't need to.
What's that, 10 kilos?
Oh dear.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Oh dear.
That'll be a problem,
I
man.
think we'll have to put this back on.
So we're at Firefly Speedshop. Mr. Rice over to the left, Mr. Milton over to the right. And action!
Yeah, well... Alright, so Ryan has been up to Firefly Speedshop a couple of times because we did do a fair bit of work on his car before, mostly aero because that's what we envisaged him as representing us doing Gymkhana. And then if you have seen the other video, we went over to Belfast to do the Monster Energy event, which was absolutely awesome. I found, as someone who builds cars, I found a few things that I thought the car could be improved upon that didn't necessarily cost or needed to cost a lot of money, because the car has a fairly reasonable bit of horsepower, and fundamentally something that I learned from that event was Ryan can drive. He's so good. He was there pedaling with the absolute best with way less horsepower and essentially carrying more weight than anyone else in the car. Now, Gymkhana is a timed barrel sprint event. Essentially, it's precision driving around auto solo event. So it's basically first gear, second gear, tight corners, first gear, second gear, tight corners, really precision driving. Now you can do well in one of these events with a car that's well set up, grippy tyres, a lot of horsepower, but when it comes to the absolute top and you're looking at tenths of a second, you can be, you know, for instance the MX5 has a hard top which weighs a bit, and that hard top of 20, 30 kilos, that might make the difference in tenths of a second, and that could be first place, second place, third place. Because when we were at the event in Belfast, up until the point where the guy who actually won, Stephen McConnell actually won, and he had 2 or 3 times the horsepower, 600 or so, it's 3 times the horsepower, semi-slick tyres, all that sort of stuff. So it wasn't really a battle against Stephen who came in first, it was a battle against the guy in second and third and fourth and fifth. That was, you know, because at the end of the day, at some point machinery is just going to make the difference. But the other thing with the Belfast event was it was more of a sprint event. There was first gear, second gear, third gear, big long straights, and it really suited a much more high performance car rather than a nimble, agile sprint car.
Yeah, I couldn't make up the time.
Couldn't make up the time, yeah. And that was something that nobody really knew until we got to the event. So for the most part, the barrel sprint events are really contained, really condensed, and I think that the weight is something that we want to really look at in the car, because carrying around all this excess weight, it just doesn't need to be there. If you've got air conditioning and you never use it, you don't need to be carrying it around. And it's better for the drivetrain, it's better for tyres, it's better for cornering speed, acceleration, braking, across the board. So Ryan's come up for another refresh because he's running the aero, and we do encourage him to push the car hard.
Yes.
And he's pushed the car hard, and that's all part and parcel. We're more than happy with Ryan's support of the business. He represents the pink. He does all these taxi rides at
Santa Pod Raceway,
and he's had a bazillion passenger rides, and everyone likes him because he's such a nice guy. They like the pink, they like the car, the fact that the car makes turbo noises, and all this cool stuff. So for this trip up, we're looking at what I think is getting some real performance increases out the car across the board.
Not just cosmetic.
Sorry?
Not just cosmetic.
Yeah, not just cosmetic, because we can refresh we can do some paint and do some new stickers and stuff like that, and that's great. And that's all we really need to care about for someone who's advertising our aero. However, we also compete ourselves at Firefly Speedshop in various things, mostly in drifting, and I genuinely want Ryan to do well. And if I can do a few bits to the car, if I can tubular convert the back end or the front end, remove some weight, maybe give him some advice with setup. I mean, he's giving me a load of advice with regards to like how the barrel sprint events work and what is more important and what isn't necessarily more important. So we're basically taking his skill and experience, and then me as a slightly different approach, and we're just converting it into now, or amalgamating the two together to get it a huge weight reduction in the car. We're not talking 10, 20 kilos, we're talking at least 150, maybe more kilos out of the car by skinning the hard top, which actually weighs a bit. The whole front end's coming off. We've looked at the regulations. We know where we can cut the car. We've corner weighted the car. As soon as we brought the car in this morning, we corner weighted the car to see what it was. So are we going to show that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got some clips of that.
Yeah, we'll show that. So we're basically going to lock the front off, lock the back off, and then all the new aero's going to go on, and the car is going to look absolutely awesome as it did before.
Also, it's going to be a lot easier to work on now with the tubular front end. It'll be a couple of bolts, and then the whole front end come off.
Yeah,
engine can come out.
Yeah, access, because all the factory slam panel just takes up so much room. You can't get your hand in or access things. But it's just going to allow us to basically position things where they optimally need to be without having to buy new radiators and things like that.
Also, the wiring. The wiring's been redone because it's a bit of a rat's nest in there from the years of, we'll quickly fix it for this event, and then it just stays like that. So that'll be really good.
So this is actually something we've been planning for quite a while.
Yeah.
We've been so busy at Firefly. We've got some new staff in. We're catching up massively. So we're pushing on now for the competition season and the aero, and we're focusing a lot less on the restoration work and all that stuff. That takes so much more time. It's really stressful. So we're going to do a lot more of the fun stuff. I want to see Ryan do so well. I want to see him out there chopping heads off. I want to see Jolene chopping heads off in the BDC and obviously I want to get out again myself. The other thing is, as a lot of the people who follow the channel know, is we have the Mark II MX5, which is quite a similar setup to...
The sister car, basically.
It's essentially like the sister car, so we have the Mark I in pink, we have the Mark II in pink with the Lamborghini doors and everything like that. And we've been toying with the idea of having this weight reduction thing, as opposed to ploughing a lot of money into the engine and gearbox and drivetrain, because when MX5s get to sort of 250, 300 horsepower, a lot of things start to break at the same time. Either the differential of the shafts go, or the gearboxes go. The engines can be made to take quite a bit of horsepower. The engines aren't really the issue with the MX5s.
Yeah, that's not the weak link. The weak link is the gearbox, and then it's the diff.
Yeah, so that comes down into putting power down, basically converting the engine power into the drivetrain power, converting that into acceleration. And if you take weight out of the car, it helps everything. It's not just the acceleration like having more horsepower would do, it's actually cornering. Horsepower doesn't necessarily help you corner any better, it doesn't help you brake any better, but weight is across the board, and it's just a bit of tube work, a bit of time. I think people are going to find it quite interesting. And obviously, like Ryan said, it gives us a chance to clean up the wiring, a little switch panel. We're probably going to put in 10 wires to replace all the stuff that doesn't need to be there.
Various different thicknesses, relays and all that is just be clean, tidy.
Yeah, clean and tidy, and some new stickers and a new livery, and then we're going to really follow his progress this year with the Gymkhana, and we are going to be attending events, and we are going to be converting the Mark II into more of a Gymkhana car. Now the Mark II already has a roll cage and some other bits. It doesn't quite have the chassis bits and pieces that Ryan has. He has the destroy or die front and rear arms.
Yeah, I've got the full destroy or die kit, and since installing the rack spaces, I've got loads more lock. I've got loads of adjustability. I can add camber, positive, negative. It's so much more adjustment in the alignment. I can tweak it with, and it's also saved me. I had a little bump at one of the vents, and because they're all movable, it just moved, nothing bent. So it saved me an arm.
Yeah. So the Mark II MX5, we're not going to quite go into that same level of...
You don't need to.
Because we don't really need to. We've got other things we want to focus on. However, this big weight reduction and using the fantastic ME221 ECU allows us to run a little tablet. All the gauges can go. We don't need them. Boost gauge, temp gauge. Those are the two most critical things on a car of this sort of category, like low end. It's not running mega horsepower. It's not running huge engine stresses, and obviously temps and things like that. And then good thing for Ryan is he can do all these taxi rides.
Yeah, the car just keeps going round and around and around. I think I did probably 300-400 laps at the last event.
How did the aero hold up to this point? Because you were telling me earlier on about the rear quarter panels.
Those quarter panels that are on it now that we're just replacing are the ones I brought from you 6-7 years ago. Just off eBay, they were the first find, and I fitted them myself. Didn't have any problems. Alignment fitted. There wasn't didn't have to trim it much, so it was perfect.
Yeah. And they take huge abuse.
Oh, the amount of tyre dealer, I've probably done hundreds of tyre. I just count how many tyre dealers I do.
Blowing tyres off. Yeah, we've done it ourselves. You get a bit more drama with the high horsepower BDC cars, but at the end of the day, if the aero can take a knock, if the aero is easy to fit, and also if it looks good, then that's.
And they're already flared as well, so they fit ET0 wheels and tyres. So.
And what sort of tyre combination? Would you ordinarily run?
Currently 195 50-15s on a 8.25 wide.
And that's a semi-slick?
Yes.
Yeah, so the semi-slick, the sidewall on a semi-slick tyre is actually quite tall, doesn't flex, and so the same like a road tyre and a semi-slick profile at the side of the tyre is actually quite different, even though the dimensions on paper are the same, because the sidewall is so stiff. And that's where the alignment is really critical, and where if you get issues with tyre rubbing and tyre scrubbing and things like that.
Because it's fiberglass, you just trim the edge down and it just finds its groove, and it's. And I can tuck wheel on that, and it's 5mm to 25mm.
His car squats so hard.
5 kilo rear springs.
And it accelerates so hard. And I'm sure we've got some footage we can drop into that. Yeah. So there'll be a link to the Belfast event, which is
the last video,
which is a last fairly lengthy video. If you're half interested in what it's like to go to a Gymkhana event. We showed pretty much everything. It was a long thing.
How many hours drive did you do on
Oh
the way
my
home?
god! Oh my god! But the thing with with cars and competing, it's not all fantastic time and fun and games. There's a lot of graft you have to do when it comes to maintaining the car, funding, working to pay for things.
Yeah, a lot of overtime. I was up at 5 o'clock this morning to get here on time. So it's a lot of hours, but yeah, it's all worth it for smiles on track.
Yeah. And for me, if we can save him tenths of a second or even seconds on a lap, that's going. That for me, that was the biggest wake-up call for me when I went to the Belfast event, and then I actually started looking into it a little bit more because I wasn't too clued up with the Gymkhana stuff. I knew it existed. I knew how it works. I knew the concept of the two cars running and battling together. But the margins are so small, and
It's gone down to reaction times before now.
yeah, reaction
So
times.
across a 2-minute run on either side, it's gone down to tenth of a second.
Yeah. I have absolutely no concerns that if we make all these improvements to the car, I'm not going to sit here and go, right, Ryan, now you need to improve. I genuinely think, and I'm not saying this because you're here, and I say this off camera to.
We talk about Ryan fairly often.
Yeah, we talk about Ryan
his
fairly.
driving and
He has nothing he has to do within himself other than just be having a little bit better of a tool set.
the best tools for the job, because that's the only thing really holding him back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The car isn't
I'm pushing the car as much as that's why I crashed in Belfast.
driving
Oh, yeah.
hard.
Yeah,
and the
I
entry
was- Oh my
was
God,
also
the
totally
entry was-
different. I
yeah.
wasn't even there and the video looked scary.
60 miles an hour, top of second gear. That was
Yeah.
chucking it in,
Chucking it
just
in.
trying to gain that few tenths of a second. Before I was grip driving, I decided to try hydroing, and it just gripped up, and I went into the fence.
Yeah.
That was scary.
But that comes down to pushing yourself again. You've got to push yourself. Because that's where, when it comes to the battling at the top, it's either the machinery of the car gets you so much further, or you're on a level, arguably a level playing field, and then it just comes down to the best driver.
Who's got the biggest balls?
Who's got the biggest
Who's
balls?
going to break the latest? Who's going to?
Who's going to break the latest? Who can break the latest? Who pushes themselves further and further and further? Now, this car that Ryan has is almost entirely self-funded. He has a couple of little sponsorships with.
Yeah.
Talk about them.
So I've had Meister on board for a few years now. So they supply me with suspension. That's custom spring rates, 5k rear, 8k fronts. Not sponsored, but I got Destroyer die kit on. That's changed the car, revolutionised the car. I get a lot more tyre life as well because I'm not having such bad camber on the rear. The wheels are provided by SRB Power and XSR wheels. Cheap wheels, but they've lasted 5-6 years of lots of abuse.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Boffy, yeah, well done. Boffy supplied me some new spark
Do
plugs.
that again, quickly. Just start again. On Boffy.
Also got Boffy on board. They've supplied me 2 sets of Iridium spark plugs.
Yeah.
We've installed
Shout out
them
to
at
them.
Belfast. They because the car was running like crap, wasn't it? Before it kept misfiring.
Yeah. I think we changed the set at the event, didn't we?
We changed them at the event, and it
Yeah.
night and day difference.
I can chop all of the shit out. So don't
Yeah.
worry,
I'm
take
just trying
it
to think
off
of. I just picture the car and also get help from Bryn and Matt at Rear Axle Divergence. Just a lot of the off-scene stuff, chatting.
Shout out to Bryn.
Yeah, Bryn's little leprechaun legend, just talking about, oh, what if I do this or this change or this change? He's always there to help.
And he
He's
encourages
the
them
mad
as well.
mechanic, isn't he?
He's engineer, yeah.
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 He's the way his brain works is just different to everyone else.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
I love Bryn.
Yeah, he's a top lad.
Um,
And that just briefly touching on that, when you're coming into competing in motorsport and you don't have a huge wad of mummy or daddy's cash to go in, or some legacy kind of company that you're born into a family that just does this, it's self-funded, and you do really rely on other people, other friends to help you, not just obviously advice and helping you bail you out of certain situations with parts or lifts.
It's just loading up in when it's pissing it down, and you've got a friend to help load you up on the trailer. It makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah, it's everything. Yeah. And we've had loads of instances at BDC events where we've just been relying on other people in the pits to help us repair a car, and it just makes all that big of a difference. So, Bryn,
Matt as well, part of RAD, and also BAM at VRS, Violent Running Syndicate. He's helped me out with a lot of events as well. He was at Coventry filming for me, and he does a lot of merch and slaps and stuff, so they're on the inside of the car, so I get to see them all the time.
Yeah, that reminds you of who's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, it's Firefly, and that's it. It's basically entirely self-funded.
Yeah, there's a lot of self-funding. You've helped me with the aero and a few sort of the mechanical jobs, but yeah, a lot of it's sort of self-funded. When I started Formula G, I didn't have any sponsors at all. It was all just doing it on myself.
Yeah, and you still did well. Ryan,
so
does this look familiar?
These are the arches I brought from you. I cut them myself. Well, all you have to do is sand out the edges, and then for me, you got the lip here. You just clean it up to get it to fit your wheels, really.
Yep. And this is strong stuff. And the thing that we find with the aero, and the way we supply the aero, more of a motorsport style, light and flexible, as opposed to super stiff. You know, like a lot of people get aero, but these just. I mean, you just.
It cracks, but I'm surprised it's not snapped. Look how flexible that is.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, it's great stuff.
For £110, is that what they go for now? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little over 100 quid. We've sold millions of these, and they're probably keeping more MX5s on the road than even the dodgy MLTs.
And if you use my name as a discount code, you get a little bit off.
Yeah, we've got Ryan as a discount code, and if you go on his socials, Ryan's Instagram, which Jolene will put on the screen.
Here? Or is it here, Joe?
Or is it here?
Or is it here?
Or is it here?
Yeah, she hates us now when you
Or is it here?
All of the places.
Yeah. So, hopefully Jolene cuts a lot of the crap out of this interview, because I'll just waffle on and waffle on and waffle on, because I like to try and give us a bit more information. But aside from that, basically it's a bit of a messy thing now we're going to do. We're just grinding, cutting, we've been stripping the car. We're going to basically take a load of weight out of it. But we are going to show you what it weighed before, as it rolled in, and we're going to show you what it weighs with basically nothing on it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to put the bare minimum amount to make it compliant. Tubular front, carry all the radiator, carry the bumper.
Still safe and secure.
Yeah, safe and secure, but he just doesn't need brackets. It still had the anti-roll bar brackets. It doesn't even have an anti-roll bar.
It's due to go on, but that's a longer thing.
So, cut to someone running a grinder through a chassis like one.
And not a finger.
Not a finger.
That's,
Look at that. Look at that weight distribution across the front.
is it good or bad?
Well, you're not in the car yet, but it's like 1 kilo between the two. want to really look at in the car, because carrying around all this excess weight, it just doesn't need to be there. If you've got air conditioning and you never use it, you don't need to be carrying it around. And it's better for the drivetrain, it's better for tyres, it's better for cornering speed, acceleration, braking, across the board. So Ryan's come up for another refresh because he's running the aero, and we do encourage him to push the car hard.
Yes.
And he's pushed the car hard, and that's all part and parcel. We're more than happy with Ryan's support of the business. He represents the paint